Okay, so imagine this. You're at the hotel check-in, and you're exhausted from your trip, and suddenly you blank on how to say, I have a reservation.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's why today we're doing this deep dive into this beginner English guide for hotel stays.
The one you sent us.
Yes, exactly, to help you navigate those situations and, sound like a pro, even if you're secretly freaking out.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about this guide is that it actually goes beyond just the basic phrases. It highlights how subtle language choices can really influence what kind of service you receive.
Oh, okay, so it's not just about being understood. It's about using the right English to get, the best possible experience.
Exactly. Like, for example, did you know that there's actually a difference between asking for the bill and the invoice at checkout?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Using the wrong one could lead to confusion or even delays, especially if you're on a business trip with specific billing arrangements.
Wait, hold on. Bill versus invoice? I thought those are the same thing. Okay, we are definitely unpacking that later. But first, let's go back to that moment of arrival. You walk into the lobby, maybe a little jet lagged, and you need to announce your presence.
Yeah, this is where confidence is key.
Yeah.
It sets the tone for your entire stay.
Okay, so how do we strike that perfect balance of polite but assertive? Because sometimes I just want to collapse on the nearest couch.
Well, the guide recommends the classic, hello, I have a reservation under the name.
Right.
It's simple, but it gets the job done.
Isn't that a bit basic, though? I mean, even I know that one.
It might seem basic, but think about it. When you state your reservation clearly and confidently, you're signaling that you're organized and you expect a smooth check-in process.
Yeah, okay, good point. I guess it's about, projecting that I know what I'm doing vibe, even if internally I'm just hoping they have a room with a decent view.
Exactly. And this confidence carries through to the next step, presenting your ID.
Right. Got to prove you are who you say you are.
Don't be surprised if they ask for it.
Yeah.
It's standard procedure in most hotels worldwide.
Right. Yeah.
But what happens when they hand you that little plastic card? Is it key card now, or is it still room key?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The guide actually points out that both terms are really common, which I find fascinating because it reflects how language adapts to these new technologies.
So it's not about one being right and the other being wrong?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It often comes down to regional preferences or even the hotel's specific style. The key takeaway is, understanding both terms.
Okay, so I won't look like a deer in headlights if they say key card instead of room key.
Exactly.
Got it. Now let's fast forward to the moment I finally made it to my room, dumped my bags. What's the first thing I'm going to ask?
I think we both know the answer to that one.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yes, the guide suggests how do I connect to the Wi-Fi, but what if I need more than just the password? Where's the nearest charging port? Or do they have adapters if I forgot mine? Yeah, that's where you can build upon what the guide says. Get a little more specific. You could say something like, excuse me, would it be possible to borrow an adapter? Or I was wondering if there are any charging ports near the desk.
I like that it's polite, but it also, gets the point across. Though I have to admit, I sometimes feel a little awkward saying excuse me all the time. Does it really matter that much?
It might seem like a small thing, but, those little courtesies, they can make a big difference, especially in a hotel setting where you're interacting with staff who are there to help you.
I never thought about it that way. It's by being super polite, I'm actually increasing my chances of getting what I need.
Precisely. It shows that respect and consideration, which can go a long way in ensuring a positive interaction.
Okay. I am sold on the power of, excuse me. Now let's say I'm all settled in, but disaster strikes, I need more towels.
The classic towel conundrum.
The guide keeps it simple. Excuse me, my room does not have any towels, which is perfect if I've literally walked into a towelless void. But, I once had this hilarious experience where the hotel only provided those tiny hand towels, the kind that you can barely wrap around your pinky finger.
Oh, no.
It was like trying to dry myself with a postage stamp. If only I'd known how to ask for specific towel types back then. So how would I do that?
You can easily just adapt that basic request to be more specific. So instead of just saying towels, you could say, excuse me, could I please have some bath towels? Or even, would it be possible to get some larger towels?
Oh, okay. And what if I need other things like extra pillows or maybe even a different type of blanket?
The same principle applies. Just, remember the, excuse me, and then clearly state your request. Excuse me, could I request some extra pillows for my room? Or I was wondering if I could have a different blanket, perhaps one that's a bit warmer.
Okay, so Polite, clear, and specific. Got it. But now let's talk about something even more crucial than towels food.
Yes.
Because let's be honest, no one wants to be that hangry traveler.
Oh, the dreaded hangry traveler.
Left in the...
Yes. So how do we navigate, those tricky food situations? Like, what if the menu is in English and I'm not sure what everything is?
Yeah, the guide provides some helpful phrases for that. So like, what time is breakfast served? And can I order room service, please?
Oh, okay, those are great starting points. But what if I have dietary restrictions, or I just want to know what my options are beyond what's listed on the menu? Because let's be real, sometimes those hotel menus can be a bit limited.
Right. So that's where you need to get comfortable asking questions.
Yeah.
The guide gives an example of, do you have vegetarian options? Which is a great starting point.
Okay, and I can adapt that for my own needs, right? Like if I need gluten-free or vegan, I can just politely ask, do you offer any gluten-free dishes, or do you have any vegan choices?
Exactly. Don't be afraid to politely inquire about your specific needs. Most hotels are happy to accommodate dietary requests if they can.
This is making me realize that even if I'm beyond the beginner level of English, there's still so many nuances to learn.
That's the beauty of language. It's always evolving, and there's always something new to discover. Speaking of new discoveries, didn't we say we were going to unpack that whole bill versus invoice mystery? Because I am still totally lost on that one.
Right, we can't leave our listeners hanging. We need to dive into that.
Yes, please, because I need to know if I've been accidentally asking for the wrong thing all these years.
Well, let's start with the bill. Think of it like what you would get at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's an itemized list of charges for everything you've consumed or used during your stay.
Okay, so that's room service, spa treatments, those tempting snacks from the minibar.
Exactly. And you typically settle this bill at checkout, either with cash or a credit card.
That makes sense, but then what's an invoice and why would I need it?
An invoice is a bit more formal. It's often used for business travelers or situations where payment might be handled later, like if a company is covering your expenses.
So if I'm on a business trip, my company might get an invoice for my stay and then they'll pay it separately.
Precisely.
Oh, okay.
And knowing this distinction is crucial because using the wrong term could cause confusion, especially at checkout. Imagine asking for the bill when you're actually supposed to be getting an invoice for your company.
Oh, I see what you mean. That could lead to some awkward delays while they try to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. So if you're ever unsure which term to use, there's a simple phrase that works in almost any situation. Could I settle my account, please?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's polite and clear, and it avoids any potential bill versus invoice confusion.
Exactly. And it shows that you're confident and in control, even if you're secretly feeling a bit flustered.
This is all making me realize how important it is to master these subtle language nuances, even if I thought I was past the beginner stage.
It's all about continually refining our skills and becoming more confident communicators, even in something as seemingly simple as ordering room service or asking for a towel.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from nailing that confident check-in to deciphering the mysteries of bills and invoices. I'm already feeling more prepared for my next hotel stay.
That's wonderful to hear, but we're not done yet. There's still some hidden gems in this guide that we need to explore.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What else have we got in store for our listeners?
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
All right.
But trust me, it's good stuff.
Okay, I'm excited.
Welcome back to our deep dive into English in the hotel.
Yeah, we've already uncovered some really fascinating insights about, how those subtle language choices can really make or break your travel experience,
Yeah, and, I've noticed something interesting about this guide.
Okay.
It really emphasizes that importance of politeness.
Now that you mention it, I have noticed that too. It seems like every other phrase starts with, excuse me, or could you please?
Exactly. And that's not a coincidence. It really highlights a crucial aspect of travel, especially when you're navigating different cultures and languages. Politeness goes a long way in ensuring smooth interactions and, positive experiences.
I guess it's kind of like a universal language of respect, Even if you're still figuring out the exact words, just being polite shows that you're making an effort.
Precisely. It demonstrates that you value the other person's time and effort, which can really make a difference in how you're treated.
So it's not just about getting what I want. It's about, building that positive rapport with the hotel staff.
Exactly. It's about creating a more harmonious and enjoyable experience for everyone involved.
Okay, I'm definitely on board with the power of politeness, but let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about, how to ask for things, but what about those times when I need to understand what someone is saying to me like at check-in when they're rattling off information about breakfast times or hotel amenities.
That's an excellent point. The guide doesn't explicitly cover comprehension skills, but it does provide a valuable clue in one of those sample conversations. Remember when the receptionist says, breakfast is from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the restaurant?
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. But what if I didn't catch all of that? Especially if the receptionist has an accent or I'm, just tired from traveling.
Right. Well, that's where those clarifying phrases can really come in handy. You could say something like, excuse me, could you repeat that, please? Or just to confirm, breakfast is served from 7 to 10.
So it's about being proactive and, making sure I understand the information correctly. No more awkward nodding and pretending I heard everything.
Exactly. And don't worry, even native English speakers use these phrases all the time to avoid misunderstandings.
Okay, good.
It's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
It shows that you're paying attention and you want to get things right.
This deep dive is really making me realize how even seemingly basic English phrases can really have a big impact on my, travel experience. It's like having secret codes to unlock those smoother interactions.
I love that analogy. And, there's one more code we need to discuss.
Okay.
The checkout process.
Oh.
It can sometimes feel a bit rushed or confusing, especially if you're trying to remember all the details of your stay.
Oh, tell me about it. Did I use the minibar? Did I charge anything to my room? Did I leave that one sock under the bed? It's a lot to keep track of.
And that's where the guide subtly prepares you with that phrase, can I have the gull, please?
Which, again, seems pretty straightforward. But didn't you mention earlier that there's a difference between the bill and the invoice?
Absolutely. And this is a perfect example of how knowing these nuances of hotel English can really prevent confusion and potential delays at checkout.
Okay, so remind me again, what's the key distinction? I'm still a bit fuzzy on that.
Think of the bill as what you get at a restaurant.
Right.
It's an itemized list of charges for things you consumed or used during your stay.
So room service spa treatments, those tempting snacks from the minibar.
Exactly. And you typically settle this bill upon checkout, either with cash or a credit card.
And the invoice is different, how?
An invoice is a more formal document, often used for business days or prepaid bookings.
Okay.
It provides a detailed breakdown of charges that might be billed to a company or settled later.
So if I'm on a business trip, I might not actually be paying the bill myself, but rather my company will handle it later based on the invoice.
Precisely. And knowing this distinction can really help you avoid awkwardness or delays at checkout. If you're unsure which term to use, a simple, could I settle my account, please, will always work.
Okay, I think I'm finally getting it so armed with this knowledge. I can confidently stroll up to the front desk and say, excuse me, could I have the bill, please? Or could you please provide me with the invoice for my stay?
Exactly.
Depending on the situation.
And that's the power of this deep dive. Taking these seemingly basic phrases and understanding those subtle nuances that make you a more confident and savvy traveler.
It's like leveling up my travel game one phrase at a time. But, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet that I think a lot of travelers stress about, myself included.
Do tell.
Tipping.
Oh, yeah.
Is there proper etiquette for tipping hotel staff in English-speaking countries? The guide doesn't mention it, but I'm always so nervous about getting it wrong.
That's a fantastic question, and one that often causes confusion for travelers.
Yeah.
While it's not explicitly covered in the guide, we can definitely shed some light on it. Tipping customs can vary slightly between countries like the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. But generally, it's customary to tip bellhops for carrying your luggage, housekeeping staff for cleaning your room, and room service personnel.
Okay, so who do we tip and how much? I'm always so nervous about getting it wrong.
Don't worry, it's simpler than you might think. For bellhops, a standard tip is $1-2 per bag.
Easy enough. And what about housekeeping?
It's generally considered good etiquette to leave a few dollars per day for housekeeping, either on the nightstand or with a note saying thank you.
Okay, got it. So a little appreciation goes a long way. What about room service?
For room service, a tip of 15-20% of the bill is standard, similar to tipping at a restaurant.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about being mindful and showing gratitude for the services provided. Speaking of gratitude, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for all this amazing information you've shared today.
It's my pleasure. I love demystifying these seemingly simple things that can actually make a big difference in your travel experience.
You've definitely succeeded in that. I feel like I've unlocked a whole new level of confidence when it comes to navigating hotels in English.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, even if you make a small mistake or feel a little flustered, a smile and a polite, can go a long way.
So true. It's all about embracing the learning process and enjoying the journey. But before we wrap up, you mentioned there was a final thought-provoking question for our listeners. something that goes beyond the guide itself.
Yes, we've talked a lot about practical phrases and tips, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. How might these seemingly simple English phrases actually boost your confidence and make your trip more enjoyable overall?
Ooh, that is a great question. I think for me, it's about feeling empowered to communicate my needs, understand what's being said to me, and just navigate those everyday travel situations with more ease. It's almost like speaking the language unlocks a whole new level of enjoyment and connection.
Precisely, it's about more than just the words themselves. It's about feeling comfortable and confident in a new environment.
So to all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear your reflections on this question. How has mastering some key English phrases impacted your travel experiences? Share your thoughts on our social media channels or leave a comment on the podcast page.
We always love hearing from you.
Right, so welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of English in the hotel. And, after going through this beginner's guide, I'm realizing that even those seemingly simple phrases can be packed with all these subtle meanings.
That's what makes language so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a code that unlocks this deeper cultural understanding.
Exactly. And speaking of codes, didn't we want to touch on tipping etiquette?
Yes.
Before we wrap up, the guide doesn't cover it, but it's something that I always find a bit tricky when traveling to English-speaking countries.
You're right. Tipping can definitely be a source of anxiety for travelers, especially when you're not sure about the local customs. It's not something that's always explicitly taught in language guides, but it is crucial for smooth and respectful interactions.
So let's break it down. Who are the key people we should be tipping in a typical hotel setting?
Well, the most common scenarios you'll encounter are tipping bellhops for handling your luggage, housekeeping staff for cleaning your room, and room service personnel for delivering food or drinks.
Okay, those are the usual suspects. But how much should we be tipping? I'm always afraid of either under-tipping and seeming rude or over-tipping and looking like I don't know what I'm doing.
Don't worry, there's some general guidelines you can follow for bellhops. A standard tip is $1 to $2 per bag.
That's easy enough to remember. So if I have 2 bags, a couple of bucks should do the trick. What about housekeeping? They do such an important job, but I'm never quite sure how to tip them discreetly.
It's generally considered good etiquette to leave a few dollars per day for housekeeping. You can either place the money on your nightstand or bedside table with a little note saying, "Thank you." Or, if you prefer, you can leave the tip at the front desk when you check out and ask them to pass it along to housekeeping.
Got it. So a few dollars a day for housekeeping, either in the room or at the front desk. What about room service? I feel like that one's a bit trickier since the bill amount can vary depending on what I order.
You're right. The room service tip is usually calculated as a percentage of the total bill. A standard tip is 15 to 20%, similar to what you would tip at a restaurant.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about being mindful of the services provided and showing our appreciation through tipping.
Exactly. Tipping is a way to acknowledge the hard work of hotel staff and ensure a positive experience for everyone involved.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've not only improved my hotel English, but I've also gained a deeper understanding of those cultural nuances that go along with it.
That's what I love about exploring language.
Yeah.
It's a gateway to a richer cultural experience.
Absolutely. And remember, even if you make a small mistake or have a moment of language fluster, a smile and a polite "excuse me" can go a long way.
So true. Most people are understanding and appreciate the effort you're making to communicate effectively.
Before we wrap up this episode, I want to remind our listeners of that thought-provoking question we posed earlier. How might these seemingly simple English phrases actually boost your confidence and make your trip more enjoyable overall? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences.
Yes, please share your insights with us on our social media channels or leave a comment on the podcast page. We always appreciate hearing from our listeners.
And on that note, it's time for us to check out of this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, may your travels be filled with smooth communication and memorable experiences.
Happy travels, everyone. Okay, so have you ever been in a hotel and you just can't quite, find the right words?
Oh, absolutely. Those lost in translation moments can be a little frustrating.
Yes. So today we're doing a deep dive into hotel English. But, and this is key, we're not talking about the basics. We're assuming you know how to say please and thank you.
Right. This is about leveling up. Think of it as unlocking that VIP level of communication so you can really get the most out of your hotel stay.
Exactly. We've got a ton of great sources here packed with all sorts of hotel-specific lingo and real-world dialogue examples. So are you ready to transform your hotel experience?
Absolutely. I think what's so fascinating about this topic is that strong communication can really make all the difference when you're traveling.
It really can. Okay, so first things first, let's dive into some essential vocabulary. I'm curious, when you hear the word concierge, what comes to mind?
Well, I think a lot of people might picture like someone who just books tours or helps you with directions.
Right, me too. But it's so much more than that.
It is. Think of the concierge as your, like a personal assistant at the hotel.
Ooh, I like that. Like a secret weapon for travelers.
Exactly. Need a reservation at that impossible to get into restaurant? The concierge might be able to work some magic. Looking for tickets to a sold-out show? They might have a few tricks up their sleeve.
Wow. Okay, so I'm definitely going to be making friends with the concierge from now on. Now let's move on to a couple of words that I always get mixed up. Complimentary and amenities. Can you help me out with those?
Sure. So complimentary refers to those delightful freebies that come with your stay. Things like Wi-Fi, breakfast, maybe even a welcome drink. It's all part of the package.
Okay, so it's like those little perks that make you feel all pampered and special.
Exactly. And then amenities refers to the broader range of facilities and services that the hotel offers. So things like the gym, the spa, the pool, these are perks that might come with an extra cost, but they can really elevate your experience.
Got it. So complimentary is the free stuff that makes me smile, and amenities are the fancy extras that might tempt me to splurge a little.
Precisely. Now, knowing these terms is great, but to really master hotel English, we need to level up our game. Let's move beyond single words and into the realm of phrases.
Yes. I mean, we all know the basics like please and thank you, but are there specific phrases that can help us, navigate those common hotel situations?
Absolutely. Let's start with the check-in process. Instead of just saying, I have a reservation, try something like, good evening, I have a reservation under your name. Could I check in, please? It's clear, it's polite, and it sets a professional tone right from the start.
Ooh, I like that. It's all about adding that touch of formality, right? Now, what if I'm hoping for a room with an amazing view? Is there a magic phrase I can use?
You can absolutely ask. You could say something like, would it be possible to get a room with a nice view, please? Or if you're looking for a quieter stay, you could try, if available, I'd prefer a room away from the elevators.
Okay, those are good. So being specific about what you want is key. What about when you need to request services during your stay? Like, say you need extra towels, or you want to ask about a late checkout.
There are some go-to phrases that can come in handy. For example, you could say, could I have some additional towels sent to my room, please? And for a late checkout, try, I'd like to request a late checkout, if possible. What's the latest I could depart?
I see. It's all about being direct, but still polite, right? But what about when things go wrong? Like, what if there's a problem with your room and you need to complain? Those situations can be kind of awkward.
You're right, those situations can be tricky. But remember, clear, calm, and polite communication is your best tool. For example, let's say the air conditioning in your room isn't working. Instead of getting flustered, try saying, excuse me, but the air conditioning in my room doesn't seem to be working properly. Could you please send someone to take a look?
Okay, that sounds much better than me just saying, it's hot in here. Like, way more professional.
Exactly. And if you encounter a problem like a leaky faucet or an issue with the Wi-Fi, you can use a similar approach. Just clearly state the problem, politely request assistance, and try to avoid getting, overly emotional.
I think it's so helpful to actually practice those real-life situations. It's like a dress rehearsal for your next hotel stay.
I totally agree. It's one thing to know the phrases, but it's another to actually feel comfortable using them.
Right. So are you ready to put our hotel English skills to the test?
I'm game. Let's do it.
Okay, let's imagine you've just arrived at a hotel. You're all checked in and ready to start your vacation. How would you go about asking for a room with a great view?
Let's see. I might say something like, excuse me, I was wondering if it would be possible to get a room on a higher floor with a good view.
And I, as the friendly front desk clerk, would say, of course, let me check what we have available.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Exactly. Now let's fast forward a bit. Let's say you're a few days into your stay and you need to request a late checkout. What would you say?
Okay, I'd probably go to the front desk and say, hi there, I'm really enjoying my stay, and I was wondering if it would be possible to get a late checkout tomorrow.
Perfect. And I, as the helpful receptionist, would reply, let me just see what we can do for you. Okay, we can extend your checkout until 2 p.m. for a small fee of $25. Would that work?
That would be great. Thank you so much.
See? Smooth and easy. Now, let's try a slightly trickier scenario. What if there's a problem with your room? Say the air conditioning isn't working. How would you handle that?
Well, first, I'd take a deep breath and remind myself to stay calm. Then I'd pick up the phone and call the front desk. I might say something like, "Hi, this is your name from room number. I'm having some trouble with the air conditioning. It doesn't seem to be cooling the room at all."
And I, as the concerned receptionist, would respond with, "Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. We'll send someone up to your room right away to take a look."
Okay, that's reassuring.
It is. It's all about being clear and direct about the problem, but without getting, upset or angry.
Right. Because getting flustered never helps.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something really important, cultural awareness. Because what might be considered polite or appropriate in one culture might not be in another.
That's a great point. Nonverbal cues can be especially tricky. For example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is seen as a sign of respect, while in others, it can be interpreted as aggressive or confrontational.
So how can travelers, avoid those kinds of misunderstandings? It's impossible to be an expert on every culture.
Well, I think the key is to be observant and respectful. Pay attention to how people are interacting, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure about something. Most people are happy to share their customs and traditions.
It's about approaching those interactions with a sense of humility, right?
Exactly. Travel is all about learning and experiencing new things, and that includes learning about different ways of communicating.
Now, I'd love to hear from our listeners. What are some of your most memorable hotel experiences, good or bad? And what did you learn about communication from those experiences?
Oh, I bet there's some great stories out there.
I know I have a few. Like that time I was in Rome and I tried to order an extra blanket in Italian. Let's just say my pronunciation needs a little work.
Oh, I can only imagine. But those kinds of experiences are all part of the fun of travel.
Exactly. They make for great stories later. And they teach us that sometimes the best way to communicate is to simply be ourselves, even if it means making a few mistakes along the way.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, I want to share a few smart hotel tips that I've picked up over the years. These are like those little insider secrets that can really make a difference in your hotel experience. Okay, so tip number 1, always confirm what's included in your rate. Don't assume breakfast, Wi-Fi, or parking are complimentary just because you saw on the website.
Right. Double check with the front desk when you check in. You don't want any surprises on your bill.
Exactly. Okay, tip number 2, think about the location of your room. If you're a light sleeper, you might want to request a room that's away from the elevators or the ice machine.
Yes. Or if you want a nice view, you might request a higher floor.
Ooh, good point. Okay, tip number 3. If you know you're going to need a late checkout, try to arrange it early in your stay. Don't wait until the last minute.
Right. Hotels are often much more accommodating if you give them plenty of notice.
Okay, last but not least, tip number 4. Safety first. Always use the in-room safe for your valuables like your passport, jewelry, and any extra cash.
And if you're leaving your room for the day, make sure to let the front desk know that you want your room cleaned.
Good point. Now, before we sign off, I just want to say I think it's so amazing how something as simple as, mastering hotel English can actually make such a big difference in our travel experiences. It can make us feel more confident, more comfortable, and more connected to the world around us.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering ourselves to navigate those unfamiliar situations and really make the most of our adventures.
So to our listeners out there, as you're packing your bags for your next trip, remember to pack your curiosity, your open-mindedness, and of course, your newfound hotel English skills.
Safe travels, everyone.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Until next time.
All right, so are you ready to really step up your hotel game? We're not talking about just basic travel phrases here.
Right.
This is you want to walk into any hotel, anywhere
in the world,
and communicate with the kind of confidence that, gets you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even gets you perks.
Exactly. That's what we're diving into. It's fascinating, isn't it? How just the right language can transform a travel experience.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got this great script from an advanced English course for hotel stays. And honestly, I was a little surprised by how much strategy is involved. It's not just about speaking English. It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of the hotel world.
It's like learning the unspoken rules of a game.
Yes.
Once you know the moves, you can play it to your advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this. So one thing that really jumped out at me was the vocabulary. They use words like boutique hotel or concierge service, which, those are pretty common. We hear those a lot.
Right.
But using them signals something specific to hotel staff. What do you think?
I think it shows you're a discerning traveler. You know someone who appreciates the nuances of different types of hotels and services.
Yeah.
And using that kind of vocabulary really does set you apart, I think,
Yes.
from the average tourist.
It's like you're speaking their language, showing that you understand the kind of hierarchy
Exactly.
of the hotel world.
Yeah.
And that can really make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. It's about establishing credibility, building rapport
Right.
from the moment you walk in.
Okay. Now, notice they also use these terms like peak season and off season. I mean, most travelers know what those mean, but is there a strategic advantage to actually using those in conversation?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It demonstrates that you're, a savvy traveler, someone who plans ahead, understands the factors that influence pricing and availability. It subtly suggests that you're not someone who can be easily swayed by tourist traps or last-minute deals.
Interesting. It's like you're signaling that you're in control.
Yes.
You know, you're not going to be taken advantage of. Okay, so vocabulary is important. But the script also emphasizes, I noticed, like the power of phrasing.
Yeah.
They have all these examples of how to make requests or handle complaints or even like negotiate, all while sounding incredibly polite and polished.
Politeness is key, I think, in the hospitality industry.
Right.
Remember, you're essentially asking for favors.
Yeah.
Whether it's an upgrade or a late checkout or resolving a problem.
But isn't there a risk of being too passive?
Oh, for sure.
Where's the line between polite and pushover?
That's such a great question. It's a balancing act.
Right.
You want to be assertive, but not aggressive. The script has some clever techniques for achieving that balance.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for instance, let's say you're hoping for a room upgrade.
Okay.
Instead of saying, can I get an upgrade? Which can sound demanding.
Yeah.
They suggest saying something like,
let me guess.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to get a room upgrade if one is available?
Exactly. Notice the difference in tone.
Yes.
It's less about entitlement and more about, exploring possibilities.
Yeah, and it kind of subtly implies that you understand that upgrades are a privilege, not a right.
Precisely. It puts the staff member in a position where they're more likely to want to help you.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about framing your requests in a way that makes the other person feel respected and empowered.
Exactly. It's about collaboration, not confrontation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Collaboration, not confrontation. Okay, so we've talked about vocabulary and phrasing, but I'm curious to see how this all played out in an actual conversation. Does the script actually give examples of these techniques in action?
It does, yeah. The next section is dedicated to realistic hotel dialogues.
Okay.
So it's showing us how these language strategies can be used in different scenarios.
All right, so let's put ourselves in the listener's shoes here.
Okay.
Imagine you've just arrived at the hotel.
Hey.
You're at the front desk checking in. What's a situation where these language skills could really come in handy?
Well, let's say you're hoping for an upgrade.
Okay.
But you don't want to come across as demanding or entitled.
Right.
The script provides a perfect example of how to approach this subtly.
Let's hear it. How does this smooth traveler make their move?
Okay. So the guest starts by confirming their reservation, then seamlessly transitions into the upgrade request.
Okay.
They say something like, I have a reservation under name.
Okay.
I was wondering, are there any complimentary upgrades available at the moment?
Okay, I see what they did there. They're not demanding an upgrade. They're simply inquiring about the possibility.
Exactly.
And I was wondering, adds a touch of politeness.
Yeah.
Almost like they're hesitant to even ask.
Exactly. It's all about framing the request in a way that makes the staff member feel empowered to say yes.
I like that.
Now, let's say the receptionist responds with something like, let me check. We do have a deluxe suite available.
Okay.
But there's an additional charge.
Okay, so they're not immediately shutting down the request, which is a good sign.
Right.
They're offering an alternative, opening the door for negotiation.
Right. And at this point, the savvy traveler could either accept the offer, politely decline, or even try to negotiate a better rate.
Right.
The key is to remain flexible and maintain a positive rapport with the staff member.
I like how this approach, gives you options and keeps the conversation flowing smoothly. It's not confrontational at all.
Exactly. It's about creating a win-win situation. Now, let's move on to another Common scenario, dealing with a billing issue.
Ooh.
It's happened to all of us, and it can be quite stressful.
Oh, I know that feeling, that heart-sinking moment when you see a charge you don't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
What does the script suggest for handling that gracefully?
Let's say you're checking out and you notice a charge for something you didn't order. Instead of getting flustered,
Right.
the script advises you to calmly approach the receptionist
Okay.
and say, I'm just reviewing my bill, and I noticed this charge. Could you help me clarify this?
Again, it's about being polite but assertive. You're not accusing anyone.
Right.
You're simply seeking an explanation.
And the way you phrase it, could you help me clarify this?
Yeah.
Implies that you trust the receptionist to resolve the issue.
Okay.
Now, let's say the receptionist looks into it and explains the charge. What if you're certain it's a mistake?
Well, I wouldn't just back down,
Right.
but I also wouldn't want to get into an argument. How do you balance firmness with politeness?
The script suggests saying something like, I understand,
Okay.
but I'm certain I didn't order this. Could we double check this against the room service records?
Okay, that's a smart move. You're not just dismissing their explanation.
Right.
You're proposing a specific way to verify the information.
Exactly. And in most cases, the receptionist will be happy to investigate further. After all, they want to ensure their guests are satisfied.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. It's like you're learning the art of persuasion, but in a very subtle and respectful way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's about influencing outcomes through effective communication.
Now, let's tackle the ultimate hotel nightmare.
Okay.
Overbooking. You arrive, exhausted, ready to relax.
Right.
And suddenly you're told there's no room for you. What do?
This is where those language skills become even more crucial.
Right.
The script gives you a powerful opening line. I booked my stay months ago. I just received a notification that the hotel is overbooked.
Yeah.
What are my options?
Okay, I like that. You're stating the facts calmly, but firmly. And most importantly, you're asking for solutions.
Yeah.
Not just accepting their apology.
Right. And the way you phrase it, what are my options?
Yeah.
Subtly puts the ball in their court.
Okay.
It implies that you expect them to provide viable alternatives.
So you're not letting them off the hook with a simple apology.
Exactly.
You're taking control of the situation.
Right.
How does the receptionist typically respond in these cases?
Well, they usually offer a solution, like a room at a nearby partner hotel. But the key is to listen carefully to their offer and not be afraid to negotiate.
Okay. So if the alternative hotel isn't ideal,
Right.
what could you say?
You could say something like, I appreciate the offer,
Okay.
but I was really looking forward to staying at this hotel. Is there any chance of a cancellation coming up?
So you're expressing your preference, but also leaving the door open for a possible change in plans.
Exactly. And if they say there's a wait list, you could ask to be put on it
Right.
and request to be contacted immediately if something opens up.
It's amazing how a few carefully chosen words can completely shift the dynamics of the conversation.
Yes,
You go from
that's it.
feeling helpless to feeling empowered.
Absolutely. It's about advocating for yourself while maintaining a professional and respectful demeanor. These difficult situations are often where strong communication skills make the biggest difference.
I'm really starting to see the value in mastering these techniques. It's not just about, sounding fancy.
Right.
It's about navigating the complexities of the travel world with confidence and grace.
And that confidence can open doors to unexpected opportunities.
Yes.
You never know what kind of perks or upgrades might come your way
Right.
when you communicate effectively.
Okay, so it feels like we've covered a lot already, but the script also has a section on pro tips for a smoother hotel experience. I'm guessing these aren't your typical travel blog cliches.
Definitely not. These are more like insider secrets that can really elevate your stay.
Okay.
And some of them are surprisingly simple.
All right. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Lay some wisdom on me.
Okay, well, one tip that often gets overlooked is booking directly with the hotel.
Okay.
Cutting out those third-party booking sites can sometimes lead to better rates and might even give you more leverage if any issues arise during your stay.
That makes sense. You're establishing a direct relationship with the hotel, showing them you're serious about staying there.
Exactly. And speaking of being proactive, another tip is to always confirm your reservation details a few days before arrival. This helps avoid any surprises or mix-ups at check-in, especially if you've booked, specific room types or requested special amenities.
Right. And I can see how that would save a lot of hassle, especially if you're traveling during peak season
Yeah.
or to a busy destination. It's like having that extra layer of reassurance that everything is in order.
Exactly. And here's a tip that could come in handy if, despite your best efforts, you encounter an issue, like the dreaded overbooking situation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to politely inquire about compensation options.
Okay. So even if they've arranged a room at a partner hotel, it's worth asking if they can offer anything additional to make up for the inconvenience.
Absolutely. They might offer, complimentary meals, spa credits, or even a discount on a future stay.
Wow.
You never know what they might be willing to do to keep a guest happy.
That's a great reminder to, advocate for yourself while still being respectful. Sometimes a little polite persistence can go a long way. What other insider tips does the script offer?
Well, one that I personally find invaluable is utilizing the concierge service.
Okay.
Many travelers underestimate the power of a good concierge.
I have to admit, I'm sometimes guilty of that.
Yeah.
I tend to do my own, research and planning.
Sure.
But what am I missing out on?
Concierges are like local experts.
Okay.
They have their fingers on the pulse of the city.
All right.
They can offer personalized recommendations for restaurants, attractions, events, you name it.
Wow.
They can often secure tickets to sold-out shows, get you reservations at the hottest restaurants, or even arrange unique experiences that you wouldn't find on your own.
So they're not just for booking dinner reservations. They can really open doors to a whole different level of travel experience.
Exactly. They can help you discover hidden gems, navigate local customs, and truly make the most of your time in a new place. And one final tip.
Okay.
This one's about financial peace of mind.
Yeah.
Always request a printed copy of your bill and review it carefully before checking out.
That's a good habit to get into. It's so easy to overlook errors or discrepancies when you're in a hurry to leave.
Exactly. It's a simple step that can save you from potential billing surprises down the road.
Wow. Okay, these pro tips are gold. They really add another layer of strategy to the whole hotel experience. It's not just about speaking the language. It's about understanding the game and playing it well.
And that's ultimately what this deep dive is all about. Empowering you to navigate the world of hotels with confidence, finesse, and maybe even a little bit of strategic charm.
I feel like our listener is walking away from this with a whole new toolkit for their next trip. They've got the vocabulary, they've got the phrases, the pro tips. It's all coming together.
It's like they've unlocked a secret level of travel.
Right.
Who knows what adventures await them now.
Maybe they'll discover a hidden speakeasy, score front row seats to a concert, or negotiate a room upgrade with the grace of a seasoned diplomat.
The point is, don't be afraid to put this knowledge into practice.
Yes.
Experiment, have fun, and see what doors open.
Yeah.
And you communicate with confidence and style.
So to our listener, we say, bon voyage.
Yeah.
Go forth and conquer those hotel lobbies.
And remember, the world is full of amazing experiences waiting to be discovered. Happy travels.
All right, welcome everyone to today's episode. We're diving deep into the world of grocery shopping, but hold on tight. We're not just covering the basics. We're going to explore advanced vocabulary and tips that will elevate your grocery shopping experience to an entirely new level. You ever walk into a supermarket and feel like you're lost in a maze? Well, let's help you navigate those aisles like a seasoned pro.
Ooh, I love this. So hold on, what do you mean by aisle navigation? Like, is there an actual map or something? Plaths.
Well, it's not so much a physical map as it is a mental one. Imagine exploring a vibrant city without losing your way. You definitely need to know where the produce section is versus the dairy aisle. Understanding aisle navigation is crucial for saving time and avoiding those impulse buys, like ending up with 10 bags of chips you never intended to purchase.
Right, totally relatable. So, what's the deal with impulse buying? Is it really that common?
Absolutely. It's more common than you think, especially when your stomach starts rumbling. You end up grabbing things just because they catch your eye. It's like a siren calling you to the rocks. That's where understanding shelf life becomes essential. You definitely don't want to be stuck with 3 containers of guacamole that spoil before you can finish them.
Oh wow, so there's actually a strategy behind this. Whew. You mentioned shelf life. What exactly do you mean by perishables versus non-perishables?
Great question. Perishables are items that spoil quickly. Think fresh veggies or dairy products. Non-perishables, like canned goods or pasta, can sit on your shelf for months, sometimes even years. It's like having a safety net in your pantry. If the zombie apocalypse happens, you want to be prepared.
Zombies? That's a wild analogy. So do you really keep this stuff in mind while you're shopping?
You absolutely need to. It's all about being strategic. For instance, knowing about bulk purchases can be quite beneficial. Buying in bulk often saves you money, but you need to ensure that you'll actually use those items before they expire.
Oh, totally. I couldn't imagine buying a giant pack of lettuce. That would rot before I even finish it. Times laughs.
Exactly. Speaking of which, if you want to be a savvy shopper in the grocery store, here's a pro tip. Always ask about any loyalty rewards. Stores often have these hidden perks for regular customers.
Oh, loyalty rewards. I've seen signs, but I never really checked them out. So how do you even ask about those?
Definitely. You could say something like, "Are there any unadvertised specials on these items?" Imagine walking out with your groceries and a handful of discounts. It's the polite detective work of shopping.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. And what if they don't have what I need? How do I handle that?
Then you pivot. Just ask, "Do you know if any of them are on promotion?" It's all about getting the most bang for your buck.
Got it. So it's like negotiating. What if I realize I got overcharged at checkout?
That's the perfect time to assert yourself. You could say, "I think I was overcharged for the Greek yogurt. The shelf price said $3.99, but it scanned as $5.49. Confidence is key here.
Wow, I'm really getting pumped about this. I think I could be that savvy shopper now.
You totally can. And remember, mastering small talk can enhance your shopping experience. For instance, commenting to the cashier about how long the checkout lines are, or asking for their favorite products. It's all about forming connections.
Asterisk. Yes, this has been so eye-opening. I had no idea shopping could be so tactical. What other smart tips do you have?
Stick to your grocery list to avoid those impulse purchases. This is solid gold. Additionally, always compare price per unit costs. While it may seem tedious, it can save you so much money in the long run.
Whoa, so it's like being a detective on a budget.
Exactly. You're not just shopping, you're transforming into a savvy consumer. So there you have it. You've got the vocabulary and the tips. Now go forth and shop like a pro.
I'm stoked. Can't wait to share all this knowledge with my friends. Thanks for all the insights.
You got it. Happy shopping, everyone.
Welcome back, Deep Divers. Ready to unlock the secrets of the supermarket.
We're going deep on this one, exploring the language, the tactics, all the hidden stuff that shapes our shopping experience.
We've got some fascinating sources lined up, and I gotta say, I learned a ton just prepping for this deep dive.
Oh yeah, anything surprise you?
Well, I've always known about impulse buying, like who hasn't fallen for that candy bar at checkout?
Classic.
But I didn't realize there's a whole psychological term, loss aversion, that explains why it works. It's like we're so afraid of missing out on that sugar rush that we just grab it without thinking.
Fascinating, right? Supermarkets are playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Totally. And then there's all the lingo like shelf life, which, duh, I know what it means, but...
That thinking about it strategically, right?
Exactly. It's not just about avoiding expired milk. It's about planning your meals so you use up those perishables before they go bad. Less waste, more deliciousness.
Now you're speaking my language.
And of course, the age-old battle. Generic versus brand name. I used to be a brand loyalist, but then I discovered the power of unit cost comparison.
Oh, yeah. That's a game changer.
It's not about the sticker price. It's about breaking it down to the price per ounce or pound. Sometimes those generic options are way more bang for your buck.
And it ties into so many other factors like loyalty rewards programs and even sustainable packaging. Some shoppers prioritize brands that align with their values, even if it costs a bit more.
It's like every decision has these layers of complexity. I remember when I first started online grocery shopping.
Oh, tell me about it.
I went overboard with all the filters, organic, locally sourced, ended up with a cart full of fancy stuff I couldn't afford.
Ouch.
Expensive lesson learned. But it made me realize how much these terms influence our choices, even subconsciously.
Absolutely. And that's why our sources emphasize the importance of asking detailed questions. Like, instead of just grabbing any old coffee, you could ask, do you carry any fair trade coffee beans?
Or, is this organic produce locally sourced? It's like speaking a secret language.
Right. And once you start using those phrases...
You sound like a pro.
Exactly. You become an empowered consumer, someone who knows what they want and isn't afraid to ask for it.
So how do we master this supermarket speak?
Well, there are some key phrases that can really up your game. And it's not just about sounding fancy.
It's about getting what you want, right?
Exactly. Like instead of just asking, is this on sale?
Yeah.
You could say,
are there any unadvertised specials on these items?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, sneaky.
See? You're actively seeking out those hidden gems. You're not just a passive shopper anymore. You're a detective.
I like it. So what about when you're at checkout and the price is wrong? It's always so awkward.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic supermarket scenario. But don't worry, our sources have got you covered.
Give me the magic words.
Instead of fumbling through an explanation, you can confidently say, excuse me, I notice a price discrepancy.
The shelf tag listed this item as price, but it rang up as price. Bam!
Perfect. You're stating the issue clearly, assertively, but respectfully. And you can apply that same approach to other situations, like asking about coupons or bulk discounts.
Now you're talking. Okay, I have to ask, who actually makes small talk at the supermarket?
You'd be surprised. It's a shared experience, and even a quick comment can create a little connection.
So instead of silently fuming behind someone with a full cart,
you could try a friendly, wow, looks like you're stocked up for a while.
Maybe you'll make the wait more bearable.
Exactly. It's those little interactions that can turn a mundane errand into something a bit more pleasant.
All right, let's imagine we're in the supermarket now. We're armed with all this knowledge, ready to put it into action.
Game time.
Say I'm looking for something specific, like gluten-free flour. I'd probably just ask, do you have gluten-free flour? But I'm guessing there's a better way.
Oh, definitely. Instead of a yes or no question, you want to be more specific, like, excuse me, I'm looking for a gluten-free flour blend. Could you point me in the right direction?
Okay, much more precise.
And while you're at it, why not slip in a question about promotions? Like, are there any special offers on gluten-free products right now?
Oh, two birds with one stone.
Exactly. You never know what deals you might uncover.
Right, now let's talk about the dreaded price discrepancy at checkout.
Ah, the worst.
You know that moment? The item rings up higher than what you saw on the shelf, and suddenly you're like,
yeah, do I say something? Do I just slink away?
Exactly. It's so awkward.
Well, remember, you have every right to make sure you're being charged correctly. And our sources have a great script for this.
Hit me with it.
Excuse me, I believe there's a price discrepancy. The shelf tag listed this item as price, but it rang up as price. Could we double check that?
Boom. Polite, clear, and assertive.
Exactly. And while you're at it, why not ask about coupons? Do you have any store coupons for this brand?
All right, it's starting to feel like a supermarket ninja. So what about sustainable shopping? How do we bring that up?
Well, you could start by acknowledging something positive, like, I've noticed you're expanding your organic section. That's great to see.
Oh, I like that. Positive vibes.
And then you can follow up with a question like, are any of these organic products sourced locally?
So you're starting a conversation, not just
a quick question, yeah.
You might actually learn something.
Right. The employee might tell you about their sourcing practices, partnerships with local farmers. You never know.
It's like turning a shopping trip into an educational experience.
Exactly. Supermarkets are more than just places to buy groceries. They reflect so much about our society, our values.
Our eating habits.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, our sources offer some practical tips for a smoother shopping experience.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
The one that jumped out at me is sticking to a grocery list.
Ah, the classic struggle.
It sounds so simple, but
But how often do we end up with a cart full of impulse buys?
too often. But knowing about that loss aversion thing, that helps.
Right. Recognizing those marketing tactics can help us make more rational choices.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of smart choices, let's not forget unit cost comparison.
Yeah, that's essential.
Don't just assume the bigger container is the best deal. Do the math, break it down, see what actually saves you money.
And speaking of saving money, those loyalty rewards
I
programs.
love a good rewards program. It's like getting a little bonus just for shopping. Those discounts can really add up.
Absolutely. And finally, a tip that can save you both time and stress. Shopping during off-peak hours.
Oh my gosh, yes. Avoid those crowded aisles and long checkout lines. Early mornings or late evenings are the best.
It's like a whole different world.
You can actually enjoy your shopping experience. And if you have the space, maybe stock up on those non-perishable items in bulk.
It saves you money in the long run.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from supermarket lingo to savvy strategies.
I feel like we've earned our shopping badges.
Totally. But remember, this is just the beginning.
The supermarket world is constantly changing.
So we've really dug deep into supermarkets. We've cracked the code, learned the language, even explored the psychology behind it all.
It's amazing how much is going on beneath the surface, right?
Totally. Like, we think we're just grabbing some groceries, but it's this whole intricate system designed
But it's
to...
influence our choices.
Exactly. But now we're wise to it. We can decode those messages and make choices that are right for us, not just what the marketers want us to buy.
That's the power of knowledge, right?
Absolutely. And, maybe this deep dive will even spark some conversations out in the real world.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine you're in the checkout line and you overhear someone debating between, I don't know, organic versus regular bananas.
You could chime in with some of your newfound wisdom.
Exactly. Turn that grocery run into a learning experience.
Spread the knowledge.
So what's the big takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to remember?
I think it's that supermarkets are more than just places to buy food. They're like windows into our culture, our economy, our values.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And by paying attention to those details, by really being present during your shopping experience, you can learn so much.
And make more mindful choices.
Exactly. So the next time you step into that supermarket,
Don't just autopilot through it.
right, take it all in, engage with it, and who knows, you might even enjoy the experience.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the wonderful world of supermarkets. Hope you learned something new today. And as always, happy shopping.
Okay, but imagine you're at the supermarket,
Uh-huh.
but you're not just, grabbing the same old stuff. You're navigating the aisles
Yeah.
with confidence. Maybe even using some, cool English phrases
Right.
to impress the cashier.
Yeah.
That's what this deep dive is all about.
I like that.
It's like we're giving you a superpower.
Super. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But even something like grocery shopping, which most people find,
Yeah,
kind of boring,
right.
can be more exciting if you have the language to navigate it.
For sure. And the cool thing is, you ready for this?
Yeah?
Our source material is actually a sample script for an English learning podcast.
Oh, wow.
So we're basically deep diving into a deep dive.
Like Inception.
Right?
But yeah, seriously though,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how they break this down, for someone learning English.
Exactly. So let's pretend we're walking through the supermarket together.
Okay.
First thing they talk about is the grocery list. I'll admit, I don't always use one.
Yeah. I find those essential, not just for language learners,
Yeah.
but for anyone who wants to. Shop efficiently.
Yeah.
Helps you stay focused. Avoid impulse buys. Save time and money.
Okay, I'm convinced. Grocery list it is. So we've got our list. We're in the store, ready to go. The script mentions two options. For shoppers who are in a hurry, self-checkout and the express lane.
Yeah. Choosing the right checkout can be key,
Oh, for sure.
especially if you're in a rush.
Or,
Self-checkout is great if you just have a few items,
yeah,
but for bigger shopping trips, the express lane can be a lifesaver.
definitely. Now, speaking of strategic shopping, the script highlights the importance of knowing where to find things. Specifically, they talk about the organic section.
Right.
Which I guess might not be a familiar term for everyone.
Yeah, organic food it's really popular now. So
Yeah.
most supermarkets have these dedicated sections,
Right.
usually with produce, dairy, packaged goods
Yeah.
that meet certain,
Organic standards.
But it's important to remember that organic can mean different things in different countries.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's worth Check in the label carefully.
Good point. And while we're checking labels,
Yeah.
we'll also mention the expiration date, which, you know, I know that sounds basic,
Yeah.
but you'd be surprised how many people don't even look at it.
It's so important, though, not just for food safety,
Yeah.
but for, reducing waste.
Right.
Being mindful of expiration dates can actually save you money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For example, if you know you're not going to use something before it expires,
Yeah.
buy a smaller quantity.
Okay.
Or choose frozen or canned alternatives.
That's smart. Okay, now for the fun stuff.
Yes.
Deals. The script talks about clearance sales and those amazing Bebo offers.
Oh, yeah.
Buy one, get one free.
You can't beat those.
Right. But I've always wondered, is BeGo like a uniquely American thing?
It's definitely a big part of American shopping culture. But you do see
Yeah.
similar promotions in other countries.
Yeah.
They might not use the term boo-go, but the concept is pretty universal.
Interesting. And if we're talking about saving money, we have to mention loyalty cards.
Yeah.
Is this common?
Yeah. Loyalty programs are becoming more and more popular all over the world.
Okay.
Supermarkets use them too.
Yeah.
Reward their regular customers,
Mm-hmm.
track shopping habits,
Right.
and encourage you to
Yeah.
come back and shop again.
Makes sense. So let's say we've made it through the store, navigated the organics section, snagged some awesome deals, and we're feeling pretty good about our English skills so far. But now we actually need to talk to someone.
Right.
The script introduces a bunch of phrases for asking for help, which
Yeah.
can be a little intimidating, especially for language learners.
For sure.
But the phrases they give are very simple and polite and effective.
Yes.
Excuse me, do you have any non-dairy milk? I mean, that's the phrase I use all the time.
That's a great example
Yeah.
of how you can use language to express,
Yeah. Yeah.
specific dietary need,
Right.
which is becoming more important these days.
Definitely. And they also have phrases for asking about sales and discounts. Like, do you know if this product is on sale?
Yeah.
Or are there any discounts on bulk purchases?
Those are great because they're polite,
Yeah,
but you're still finding out about potential savings.
for sure. Okay, so we found our items, maybe asked for some help, and now our basket is full. Ready for checkout. What kind of phrases do we need for this final stage?
Well, they cover a lot of essential checkout phrases.
Okay.
Starting with the basics.
Yeah.
Like, can I pay with my credit card? Mm-hmm. Or do you accept digital payments? Which is important because, there are so many different payment options these days.
Yeah.
It's good to be prepared. It's not just about the payment methods, though. They also have phrases for specific situations.
Okay.
Like requesting cash back. Or if you think there's been like a pricing error.
Right, like I think I was charged incorrectly. Can you check the price? I'll admit, sometimes I hesitate to say something if I think there's a mistake. But it is important to speak up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And having, a clear phrase like that
Yeah,
makes it so much easier.
for sure.
It's about being polite, but also confident.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
even if there isn't a mistake, just asking them to double check can give you peace of mind.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so payment is sorted. But before we leave, the script throws in a curveball. It encourages us to make small talk
Oh, yeah.
with the cashier. I
Interesting.
never thought of that as like a language learning opportunity.
It can be, though.
Yeah.
Those little interactions, they're a great way to practice conversational English
Okay.
in a low-pressure environment, I suggest. Simple things like commenting on how busy the store is or asking for recommendations.
So like, it's really busy today. Is it always like this? Or
Yeah.
do you have any recommendations for a good one?
Exactly.
Wait, are we allowed to ask cashiers for recommendations?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
You have to read the situation. If they seem friendly and approachable, then yeah, a casual question like that can be nice.
Right.
But if you're not sure, you can always frame it as more of a request for their expertise.
Okay.
Like, I'm looking for a good wine for a special occasion. Do you have any favorites?
That's good. Okay. I'm convinced. Small talk, check, I have to say, I'm really impressed by how much thought they put into these phrases.
Me too. It's very well structured.
Yeah.
And speaking of structure, the script actually includes some sample conversations
Oh, cool.
to show how these phrases might sound in real life situations.
I like that.
You want to take a look?
Yeah, let's eavesdrop on some supermarket dialogues.
Yeah.
The first one starts with a customer looking for gluten-free pasta.
Okay. Finding specific dietary items can be tricky.
Yeah, especially in a big supermarket.
Yeah. But this conversation shows how a simple question can help you find exactly what you need.
Right. And the staff member is so helpful. Not only do they point the customer in the right direction, but they also mention the organic section as a good place to look for specialty items.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to have knowledgeable and helpful staff.
Yeah,
They can make the shopping experience so much smoother,
for sure.
especially for people with specific dietary needs.
Absolutely. And then the customer takes the opportunity to also ask about dairy-free cheese. So they're like, getting all their questions answered at once.
That's good. Efficient.
Right.
Making the most of the interaction.
Okay, next conversation. This one takes us to the checkout,
Right.
which can be a little stressful, if you're feeling flustered or self-conscious about your English.
Yeah.
But this dialogue shows how to handle it with grace.
I like that.
It starts with the cashier's greeting. Hello. Did you find everything you needed?
Nice. Very welcoming.
Right. And the customer's response is perfect. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, do you take Apple Pay?
Perfect.
It's so casual, but polite.
And it's important to clarify the payment options
Yeah.
up front
Yeah,
to avoid any awkwardness or delays.
definitely. And the cashier confirms
Yeah.
that they do take Apple Pay and even explains how it works.
Great customer service.
Right.
They're willing to adapt to new technologies,
Yeah.
take sure the transaction is smooth.
Exactly. And then the customer adds a request for cash back, which is a lifesaver sometimes. The cashier's response is great. Sure. How much would you like?
Very professional.
Okay. Last conversation. This one is all about asking about a sale,
Okay.
which can be tricky if you're not sure about the details in this case. The customer has seen a sale on cereal and they want to know if the discount is applied automatically,
Smart.
right? Because there's nothing worse than getting to the checkout and realizing the sale wasn't what you thought. So
Exactly.
the staff member explains that it's a buy one, get one free deal, but only if you buy 2 boxes.
Okay.
So it's important to read the fine print. And the customer, being a savvy shopper, asks if there are any coupons.
Good.
Never hurts to ask.
Yep.
And the staff member suggests signing up for the loyalty program
Oh, nice.
to get weekly coupons.
That's a win-win.
Right.
The supermarket gets a loyal customer, and the customer gets coupons.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot here.
You have.
Essential vocabulary, practical phrases, and even some real-life supermarket dialogues. I'm feeling pretty confident about my next shopping trip.
Me too.
What about you?
Yeah, definitely. But, it's not just about the phrases.
Right.
The script also emphasizes the importance of smart shopping strategies,
Okay.
which go beyond just knowing the right words.
It's funny. We often just go to the supermarket on autopilot, just grab what we need and get out.
Yeah.
But this deep dive has really made me think about all the different ways we can use English, even in a place like the supermarket.
It's true. Learning can happen anywhere.
Right. And they start with something we've talked about before, but it's important, so I'm going to repeat it. Always check the expiration date.
Yes.
I know it sounds obvious, but I've definitely been guilty of just throwing things in my cart without even looking.
It happens. We all do it.
Yeah.
But taking a moment to check can save you from a lot of food waste.
And disappointment.
Exactly.
Okay, next tip. This one is for me.
All right.
Compare prices.
Yes.
I am so bad at this. I just grab the first thing I see.
I know. But you can save so much money if you take the time to compare different brands and sizes.
You're telling me I need to break that habit.
Okay.
But for those times, when I am in a hurry, the script reminds us that self-checkout exists.
Oh, yes.
If you notice, those machines have gotten so much faster.
They really have.
It's amazing.
Technology is always improving.
Right.
And self-checkout systems have definitely benefited.
For sure. Now, here's a tip I hadn't really thought about before.
Yep.
Don't be afraid. To ask store employees
Mm-hmm.
for recommendations.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
I mean, they work there. They know the products.
Exactly.
You can give you valuable insights.
Especially if you're looking for something new.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, a reminder to bring those reusable bags.
Yes.
We all know it's important.
For the environment.
Right.
And some stores
Yeah.
even offer discounts if you use reusable bags.
So you save money and help the planet.
Exactly. Plus, it could be a conversation starter.
Oh, how so?
The cashier might comment on your bag,
Oh, that's true.
and that gives you a chance to practice your English.
You're so right. I love that. Wow. This whole deep dive has been eye-opening.
It has.
I thought I was a supermarket pro, but I've learned so much.
Me too.
Both about English and about being a smarter shopper.
Absolutely.
But the learning doesn't have to stop here.
What do you mean?
Well, the script, it challenges listeners to actually put this knowledge into practice.
Oh, I like a good challenge.
So do I. They encourage listeners to pick one new phrase from this episode and try it out. On their next shopping trip, it could be anything. Asking for help, making small talk with the cashier, whatever you want.
The important thing is to step outside your comfort zone.
Right, and they even suggest that listeners reflect on the experience.
Interesting.
So, did using that new phrase boost your confidence? Did it spark a conversation? Did it make the whole shopping experience more enjoyable?
I love that.
Oh,
It's those little moments that make learning feel real.
Absolutely.
And who knows, maybe trying one new phrase will inspire them to learn even more.
Exactly. So there you have it. You've got your grocery list, your reusable bags, and now a whole bunch of phrases to make your next shopping trip a breeze.
You're all set.
But more importantly, you've got this new awareness of how language can empower you in everyday situations.
That's the key.
So go out there, be a savvy shopper, and don't be afraid to strike up a conversation. Happy shopping, everyone.
All right, so picture this. You've just landed in, I don't know, let's say Prague.
Okay.
You're completely jet lagged. You haven't eaten in like hours. And all you want is some yogurt. But standing between you and that yogurt is this just like a massive wall of yogurt.
Yeah.
Like brands you've never even heard of in your life.
Right.
All in Cyrillic.
Oh, yeah.
You have no idea what to do.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I've definitely been there, and it feels like a very universal experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like this kind of supermarket standoff.
Yeah.
Of like, what do I do?
Yeah, definitely.
So today, we're going to try to arm you with the tools that you need to win that standoff.
That's right.
We are diving into this beginner's guide to English in the supermarket.
Sounds great.
So that no matter where you are in the world, as long as you can find a supermarket that speaks English, you can get the sustenance that you need.
Yeah, you know, I think what's really fascinating about supermarkets is that they're not just places to buy groceries, but they're really kind of cultural hubs.
Right.
And learning the language of the supermarket can unlock a deeper understanding of a society's habits, you know, values, even its history.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah, well-
when you walk into a supermarket, you can immediately tell what people value by what's at eye level, what's
Exactly.
at the end of the aisle, like what's on
Kind
sale.
of how things are organized.
Yeah.
The layout of the store itself tells a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guide has so much good stuff in it. I mean, so much good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It has like a great list of essential supermarket words.
Okay.
And some of them are, you know, pretty straightforward, but some of them I was like, I actually don't know if I've ever thought about how to pronounce this word before.
Interesting.
Like aisle, for example.
Aisle. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, aisle can be a tricky one.
Yeah.
I've even seen it misspelled sometimes as a aisle, like an island.
Oh, yeah?
But aisle itself, I think, speaks to the evolution of supermarkets.
Right.
Because you think about like early grocery stores, they were often really cramped and crowded, you know?
Like you would go up to a counter and ask for what you needed. But as the concept of self-service kind of grew and, you know, blossomed, aisles became these wider spaces that allowed for more products and that kind of quintessential shopping cart experience that we know.
And the shopping cart versus a basket.
Right.
Are there some cultures that have mostly baskets versus mostly carts?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that, but I imagine there are certain cultures that might favor baskets for maybe smaller purchases, or maybe they just don't have the space for large shopping carts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the word aisle itself kind of tells that story of the evolution of the supermarket.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so this guide also goes into customer service and some of the like cultural differences that you might experience between an English-speaking supermarket and a supermarket that doesn't speak English.
Right.
And so I'm curious about like what are some of the things that we should know about?
Well, I think politeness is really emphasized in the guide.
Okay.
But the level of formality can really vary, you know?
In some English-speaking countries, you might find that casual chit-chat with the cashier is quite common.
Okay.
You know, like talking about the weather or asking about their day.
Right.
But in other places, it might be more of a transactional interaction.
Okay.
You know, very quick and to the point.
So it's really all about reading the room.
Yeah, I think observing the locals is a great tip. Just to see how they interact with the staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the fun stuff.
Okay.
This is what I was excited about, which are the essential supermarket phrases.
Right.
Because we can learn all the words we want, but if we don't know how to actually put them together into coherent phrases,
Exactly.
then we're not going to get very far.
It's all about communication, right?
Right.
Being able to express your needs and ask for assistance.
Yeah. So what are some of the phrases that stand out to you?
Well, some of the ones that I think are really useful are things like, excuse me, where can I find the Dijon mustard?
Okay.
Or do you have this in a smaller size? Or even simple things like thank you
Right.
can go a long way in creating a positive interaction.
Right.
And adding please to your requests,
Right.
makes a big difference as well.
Sure.
Like, could you please tell me where the bakery is?
Oh, yeah. That's so much better than, where's the bakery?
Exactly. It shows respect and consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
And then this guide also has some really great sample conversations.
Yeah.
That kind of put all these phrases into action.
Right.
So I thought it'd be fun to try one out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's say we're at the checkout and I've got all my groceries, all scanned and ready to go.
Okay.
And I'll be the customer, you be the cashier.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so hello, could I please have a bag and what's the total?
That'll be $23.50 for you.
Thanks. And could I get a receipt, please?
Of course, have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Perfect.
I already feel like I'm a better supermarket shopper.
I know, right? Just communicating clearly and confidently makes the whole experience so much smoother.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was so nice to say, could I please? Instead of just like,
It's demanding.
yeah, just like bag or
Yeah.
receipt,
Give me a bag.
Yeah, which I think is something that I'm probably guilty of doing from time to time,
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
especially when you're in a rush.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about making a list? I'm terrible at this.
The shopping list.
Yeah.
The crucial tool,
Yeah.
not only for avoiding those impulse buys,
Right.
but also for just staying organized.
Yeah.
Thinking about what you need and organizing your shopping by supermarket sections.
Right.
So you're not like wandering aimlessly up and down the aisles.
Yeah, and then ending up in the chip aisle when you were actually trying to go to the dairy aisle.
Exactly. It can save you so much time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the guide also mentioned checking dates,
Oh, yes.
which I'm also guilty of forgetting.
It's important.
I once grabbed a carton of milk
Oh, no.
without looking, and let's just say it did not end well.
That's relatable. I think we've all had those moments where we've forgotten to check the date and ended up with something that's past its prime.
Oh, yeah?
But what the guide didn't mention is that in many English-speaking countries, you can actually often find discounted items that are close to their expiration date.
Oh, that's a good tip.
So if you're looking for a bargain, that's a great strategy.
That is a great strategy. Okay, so we've learned so much about how to navigate the English-speaking supermarket.
We have.
We've got our phrases, we've got our tips, we're checking our dates, we're making our lists.
We're ready. I think we're ready to win that standoff.
I think so, too.
But it also, it occurs to me that, learning how to speak English in the supermarket is about so much more than just getting the groceries that you need.
Absolutely.
It's about feeling confident
Right.
and connected in a new cultural environment.
Yeah, it's about feeling like you can navigate the world around you
Right.
and interact with people from different cultures. And even just like the little act of saying thank you or please, it can make such a difference.
It really can. It's those small gestures that show respect and build connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
What can you learn about a society's values and priorities just by looking at its supermarket shelves?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What products are considered essential? How is food marketed and displayed?
I love that.
That's something to think about the next time you walk into a supermarket.
It is. It really makes you think about the cultural significance of these spaces.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we've armed you with the linguistic tools for a successful supermarket adventure.
We have.
Now go forth and shop with confidence.
Happy shopping, everyone.
And we'll catch you on our next deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.
Ever feel like you're just one or two phrases away from sounding like really fluent in English?
Yeah.
Well, we're diving into a podcast script today. It's called Fluent Conversations, and they say they found 15 of those magic words.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's not about sounding super smart, right?
Right.
It's about that natural flow you hear, like native speakers using, like, I can explain something perfectly, but it'll still sound like I'm reading it from a textbook.
Oh, for sure.
So to show us how it's done, this script has a conversation between these two friends, Emma and Jake.
Okay.
To show these words in action.
Okay, I like that.
And then it breaks down each word.
Gotcha.
Ready to eavesdrop.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Emma starts by saying, I ran into Sarah yesterday at the mall.
Okay.
Now Jake, he jokes that he pictures her like literally crashing into Sarah, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's funny because run into is one of those phrases that doesn't translate literally, like it means to meet by chance.
Yeah, yeah.
But think about it. Doesn't it sound way more natural than just saying, I met Sarah?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's casual, right?
Yeah.
Off the cuff.
But I think there's like even more to it than just being casual.
Oh, okay.
So choosing ran into instead of met, it kind of shows like a cultural preference.
Okay.
So in English, we often like to use more indirect language,
Huh.
especially when we're talking about something that like we weren't expecting, like running into someone.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
exactly.
There's so much packed into these like simple words.
For sure.
Okay, next phrase. Emma asks Jake, could you give me a hand with these boxes?
Okay.
Of course, Jake knows she just needs help, right?
Right.
Not a literal hand.
Uh-huh.
It's another example of this like indirect language thing.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely.
So give me a hand. It makes it sound nicer, right?
Yeah.
It's more like we're working together, not me demanding something.
Exactly. Exactly.
It assumes that like we're already on good terms.
Right.
Interesting. So even when we're asking for help, English speakers, we like to beat around the bush a little bit.
Well, it's not really like avoiding the question. It's more about,
Okay.
being polite
Okay.
and not sounding too direct or demanding.
Makes sense. Okay, so then Emma says, we need to wrap up this meeting soon.
Okay.
So wrap up, I feel like this is one of those words that you can use all the time
Oh, yeah.
in
Absolutely.
so many situations.
It works for meetings, projects,
Yeah,
even just conversations.
exactly. And what I think is so cool about this is it paints a picture in your mind, right?
Right.
It's like you're really tying everything up together. Yeah, I can almost see it.
Yeah. And I think because it's so visual like that, it makes it more memorable.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And easier to use.
Okay, next one. Emma says, I'll keep an eye on your bag while you get coffee.
Okay.
So it's more than just watching it, right?
Okay.
There's like responsibility there.
Yeah.
Like saying, I got you covered.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so effective. It's
Oh.
like there's that deeper meaning,
Yeah.
It's not just the words, but it shows the trust between Emma and Jake.
Okay, up next, Emma says, hang on, I need to grab my jacket before we go.
Okay.
It's so simple, right?
Yeah.
But like so important for every day.
Oh, yeah. I use it all the time.
Who hasn't yelled that running out the door?
Yeah.
But like it's friendly, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an order. It's just like, hey, wait a sec.
It's just a quick little, hold on.
Yeah.
And it also, like, it implies it'll be quick,
Yeah.
You're not asking for a lot.
Okay, now this next one, I feel this one in my soul.
Okay.
Emma says, I messed up my presentation, but my teacher was really understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Mess up. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it doesn't sound as bad as like fail. Fail sounds so final.
Totally.
This is more like you tripped up, but you can recover.
Yeah. And it also shows that she's, like, taking ownership,
Yeah.
But without beating herself up too much about it.
Which is good life advice in general, I think.
Right.
Okay, now Emma asks Jake, can you drop me off at the bus station?
Mm-hmm.
Now this one's interesting
Oh, how so?
because it like kind of shows how we have certain social rules just with language.
Oh, boy.
Like you wouldn't just ask a stranger to drop you off.
Right.
You're kind of doing them a favor.
Yep.
It assumes you already go in that way and you're cool with going a little out of your way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's way more natural than saying like, can you please transport me to the bus station using your vehicle?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Okay, what does Emma say next? So Emma says, I'll check it out and let you know.
Okay.
It's like the perfect thing to say if you want to show you're interested.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's way better than just saying like, okay,
Right.
you're actually going to like do something.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's simple,
Yeah.
it shows you're, like, thinking ahead,
Yeah.
which is good.
Okay, then Emma mentions she has to come up with a good idea for our project.
Oh, yeah, this is something we can all relate to,
Ugh, tell me about it.
whether it's for work
Mm-hmm.
or just, like, trying to figure out what to make for dinner.
Seriously.
It's that mental struggle. Like, you're trying to make something new.
Okay, next up, Emma gets excited and says, I'm looking forward to our trip next week.
Okay.
This one is just like pure excitement, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
And it's cool how she brings Jake into it,
Yeah.
by saying our trip.
Yeah.
It makes them, like, closer because they're both excited.
Okay, but then reality hits. Emma says, I need to figure out how to fix this problem.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh, for sure.
This just shows, like, you're not going to give up.
Right.
You're going to find a way to fix it.
Exactly.
So we already saw her mess up earlier, and now she says, I was late, but I made up for it by bringing coffee.
Oh, nice.
Smooth, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, you messed up, but you're going to make it right.
Yeah, it's like a little apology, but without actually saying sorry.
I like that.
It's like, you messed up, but you're trying to fix it.
Okay, then things get a little dramatic. Jake says he passed out from exhaustion.
Okay.
So it means to faint, right?
Yeah.
But by adding, like, from exhaustion,
Right.
you really know how tired he must have been. Like, he couldn't stay awake.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting to the end of their conversation, and Jake says she showed up late to the party.
Okay.
So he's just saying what happened, right?
Right.
But showed up, it kind of sounds like he's, like, judging her a little.
Yeah, like it was her choice to be late.
Yeah.
Not something, that she couldn't control.
Interesting.
Yeah. So even a little word like that, it can show what you really think.
Okay, finally, Jake says, we had to put off our meeting until next week.
Mm.
I feel like this is so much nicer than saying we canceled.
Oh,
Like, it's not gone forever.
Right. It's just waiting for a better time.
Yeah, like we're still committed.
Exactly.
So that's all 15 words in
Yeah.
action.
That was cool.
And remember, the podcast, we're deep diving into fluent conversations. They give you a challenge.
Oh, fun.
So they have 3 sentences.
Okay.
And you have to figure out which word fits best.
Okay.
First one, I like my keys, and now I can't find them anywhere.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
So relatable.
The perfect word is messed up
Okay.
because it's your fault, and you're like frustrated because of it.
Second challenge, I'll blank your dog while you're on vacation.
Okay.
So this one is all about taking care of something, right?
Right.
So the answer is keep an eye on. Much better than saying, like, I will supervise your canine.
Oh my God. Yeah. Way too formal.
Okay, last challenge, let's blank dinner until next week.
Okay.
So we're just moving it to later.
Yeah.
The best word here is put off. It's like hitting the pause button.
Exactly.
I love how, like, effortlessly those words fit into the sentences.
Yeah. It's like they were made for them.
And that's why it's so important to master these, like, everyday words.
Right.
Because they make you sound so much more fluent.
Exactly. It's like building blocks for your conversation.
So we learned a lot, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Just from those 15 words.
Right. And just like hearing them in a normal conversation.
It's kind of crazy how much we can pick up just from that.
It really shows you that like fluency isn't about, knowing every word in the dictionary.
Right.
It's more about like how you use those words to connect with someone.
To really get your point across.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what does this all mean for, like, our listener?
Well, it means they can like totally improve their fluency
Okay.
just by like looking at the phrases they use every day.
Yeah. Instead of just saying stuff without thinking.
Right. Like actually think about why you're using that word.
Okay. Yeah.
And like how it makes the other person feel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And if you can do that, you'll sound so much more natural.
And confidence is... So, okay, we get it. We got to use the right words. But, like, how do we actually do that?
Good question. Well, I have a challenge, kind of like in the Fluent Conversations podcast.
Okay.
Think about some other simple phrases that you could start using today.
That would make us sound, like, more natural.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, but I think like one thing you could do is like pay attention when you're watching a movie
Okay.
or a TV show and see how they say things.
Oh, yeah, steal their lines, basically. And then, like, actually use them when you're talking to someone.
Right, don't be scared to try it out.
Yeah, and see what works, see what feels good.
Exactly, it's like a little experiment.
I love
We
that.
can even like all share what we find.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
Everyone can like learn from each other.
Because at the end of the day, language is about connecting with people, right?
Yeah, it's about like building relationships, sharing what you think.
Exactly.
And the better you are at English, the easier that is to do.
So true. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep those conversations flowing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, happy language adventures. All right, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into something you specifically requested.
Oh, yeah.
Boosting your vocabulary.
Yes.
For more fluent and confident English.
It's going to be good.
Now, before you panic, we're not expecting you to memorize the entire dictionary.
Not at all. This is about those key words, the kind that can make a real difference in how you express yourself, especially in those situations you mentioned where you want to feel more confident and articulate.
Exactly. And luckily, the source material we're using is super organized with 60 powerful words.
Wow.
Grouped into 6 helpful categories.
I like it.
Though it is kind of funny that the source itself is structured like a podcast episode.
Very meta.
Yeah.
But we'll skip those instructions and jump right into the good stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this first category, expressing opinions.
Okay.
The first word that jumps out at me is concur.
Ooh.
It just sounds so much more decisive than a plain old, I agree, you know?
Absolutely. Concur implies you've actually considered the information and come to a thoughtful agreement, which could be especially powerful, say, in a professional setting,
Right.
where you want to project competence.
Oh, that's a good point. It's not just about using fancy words. It's about choosing the right word to convey the specific message you want.
Exactly. And speaking of conveying messages, the next word, imply, reminds me of something you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
You said you sometimes struggle to give feedback delicately.
Oh, yeah.
Well, imply could be your secret weapon there.
Ooh, tell me more.
So instead of directly criticizing, you can imply your suggestion.
Okay.
For example, instead of saying that report was too long,
Right.
you could say, I wonder if the report's key points could be summarized more concisely.
Oh.
You're implying that it needs to be shorter without directly saying it.
That's brilliant. It softens the criticism while still getting the message across. I can definitely see myself using that.
See, it's all about understanding the nuances of these words and how they can be applied in real-life situations.
Okay, I'm starting to get really excited about this. What else do we have in this category?
Well, we have refute, which is perfect for dismantling a flimsy argument.
Uh-huh.
Politely, of course.
Right.
Remember those meetings where someone proposes an idea that just doesn't hold up?
Oh, I know those meetings all too well.
Refute allows you to disagree respectfully while presenting evidence or logic to back up your stance.
So instead of just saying, I disagree, I could say something like, I understand your point, but I'd like to refute it by presenting these statistics.
Exactly. It shows that you've considered the other perspective, but have a well-reasoned counter-argument. Very effective.
Okay, I'm loving these words already. Now, what about this pair, imply and infer? I always get those mixed up.
Ah, yes, a classic linguistic conundrum. Remember that example we just discussed about implying feedback?
Yes.
Well, if someone inferred from your subtle suggestion that the report needed to be shorter,
Right.
that would be on them drawing a conclusion from what you implied.
Okay, so imply is on the speaker side and infer is on the listener side. Got it.
You got it. Now, there's another word of this category that I think would be particularly useful for you.
Okay.
Assert. You mentioned wanting to be more vocal in meetings, right?
Oh, yes. Sometimes I feel like I fade into the background a bit.
Well, assert is your power word. Imagine yourself saying, I want to assert that we need to prioritize user experience in this project.
Wow. I can already feel the difference. Assert just has this air of confidence and conviction.
Exactly. It shows that you're not afraid to speak your mind and that you believe in the value of your contributions.
This is fantastic. I'm already feeling more empowered to express my opinions effectively. Okay, what's next on our vocabulary adventure?
Let's move on to personal qualities. This category is all about the words that describe who we are at our core.
Ooh, this sounds intriguing and a little bit introspective, perhaps.
Absolutely. For example, we have meticulous,
Okay.
which describes someone who pays incredible attention to detail.
Right.
Now, thinking back to your work,
Mm-hmm.
I know you take pride in delivering high-quality results. Would you say meticulous is a word that resonates with you?
Definitely. I'm always striving for perfection, whether it's editing a script or organizing an event.
So owning that word and using it to describe your work ethic could really enhance how others perceive your strengths. You could say something like, I'm meticulous in my approach to project management, ensuring that every detail is accounted for.
I love that. It's not just about sounding smart, it's about accurately representing my skills and values.
Precisely. And speaking of values, the next word, resilient, is one that I think we can all relate to.
Oh, absolutely. Life throws curveballs, and it's all about how we bounce back.
Exactly. Resilience isn't about avoiding challenges.
Right.
It's about having the inner strength to overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that setback you told me about how you handled that difficult client situation?
Oh, yeah.
That's a perfect example of your resilience in action.
You know, you're right. I never thought of it that way, but I did manage to navigate that situation effectively and learn from the experience.
Exactly. So when you encounter future challenges, remember that experience and the strength you demonstrated. That's what resilience is all about.
Wow, this is really powerful stuff. I'm starting to see how these words aren't just about expanding my vocabulary. They're about reframing my thinking and recognizing my own strengths.
That's exactly the point. Now, before we move on, I noticed that candid appears in two categories:
Oh.
personal qualities and sophisticated conversations. I wonder what that tells us about the importance of honesty.
That's interesting. Maybe being candid is more valuable than we sometimes realize, both in our personal lives and in those more complex discussions.
It's definitely something to ponder. So before we delve into those sophisticated conversations, let's take a moment to reflect. If you had to choose 3 words from this personal qualities list to describe yourself, which ones would you pick and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think I would choose meticulous, resilient, and maybe insightful. I feel like those words really capture my approach to work and life in general.
Those are excellent choices. And they highlight the power of owning those qualities and using them to your advantage.
All right, I'm ready to dive into the next category, words for making conversations sound more sophisticated. But I have to admit, I sometimes feel a little silly using big words in casual conversations. Like, will people think I'm trying too hard?
I understand that concern, but think of it this way. These words aren't about showing off.
Right.
They're about expressing yourself more precisely and vividly. It's like having a wider range of colors to paint with.
Okay, that's a helpful analogy. So it's less about sounding smart and more about using the right tool for the job.
Exactly. For instance, the word ubiquitous. Yes, it sounds a bit academic, but it's also incredibly useful for describing something that's everywhere. Like, remember how we were talking about that new social media app everyone's using?
Oh, yeah? The one that's suddenly taken over all my feeds?
Instead of just saying it's everywhere, you could say, that app has become ubiquitous. It just adds a touch of sophistication and precision.
You're right, it elevates the language a bit without sounding pretentious. Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. What other sophisticated words do we have here?
Well, there's ephemeral,
Okay.
which describes something fleeting or short-lived.
Right.
Now, think about that feeling you describe when a really great book ends, or when you finish a project you've poured your heart into.
Oh, I know that feeling well. A mix of satisfaction and a little bit of sadness that it's over.
Exactly. It's a bittersweet feeling, and ephemeral captures that perfectly. You could say the joy of finishing that project was wonderful, but also somewhat ephemeral.
That's beautiful. I'll definitely be adding ephemeral to my vocabulary arsenal.
And, it doesn't have to be reserved for deep philosophical discussions. You could even use it to describe something as simple as a beautiful sunset.
Oh, that's true. The sunset's colors were vibrant yet ephemeral. I love it.
See, these words can add depth and richness to any conversation, even everyday ones. Now, what about notorious? It's a fun one.
Ooh, yes. It's like that restaurant is notorious for its terrible service, or that politician is notorious for flip-flopping on issues.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of infamy or bad reputation, adding a little bit of spice to your storytelling.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to the next category, words for work and professional settings. I'll be honest, I initially thought I could skip this section since I'm not in a super corporate environment.
That's a common misconception. While these words might be frequently used in offices, understanding them can be valuable in any setting where you're collaborating with others.
You know, you're right. For example, delegation. It's not just about bosses assigning tasks. It's about effectively distributing responsibilities in any group project, even planning a volunteer event or a community initiative.
Exactly. Understanding delegation can help you be a more effective leader even in informal settings. And then there's facilitate, which is such a useful word for anyone who wants to help things run smoothly.
Oh, I love facilitate. It's like I want to facilitate a brainstorming session where everyone feels comfortable sharing their ideas.
Exactly. It implies a sense of guidance and support, creating an environment where everyone can contribute effectively. Now, I know you mentioned sometimes feeling overwhelmed by group projects. Delegation and facilitate are perfect examples of words that can empower you to take charge and guide those projects towards success.
Wow, that's a really empowering perspective. I'm already feeling more confident about handling those collaborative situations.
And even a word like synergy, which might make you roll your eyes a bit.
Oh, definitely. It's such a buzzword.
It is, but putting aside the corporate jargon, the underlying concept is actually quite valuable. Synergy is about recognizing that the combined effort of a group can be greater than the sum of its individual parts.
Okay, when you put it that way, it does make sense. It's about the power of collaboration and how different skills and perspectives can come together to create something truly amazing.
Exactly. And that's a powerful concept to understand regardless of your work environment.
All right, I'm starting to see the value in these work and professional settings words. They might not be the most glamorous, but they are incredibly useful for clear communication and effective teamwork.
And speaking of clear communication, let's move on to a category that's all about expressing ourselves authentically, emotions, and reactions. This is where things get really interesting.
Oh, I love this category. These words are so much more nuanced and evocative than just saying happy or sad.
Exactly. It's like having a whole spectrum of colors to describe the complexities of human emotion. For example, exasperated. It perfectly captures that feeling of utter frustration and annoyance, like when you're dealing with a never-ending queue or a computer that just won't cooperate.
Oh, tell me about it. I felt that way just this morning when I was trying to book a flight online and the website kept crashing.
I can imagine it's much more specific and vivid than just saying annoyed, right?
Absolutely. And then there's elated. It's not just happy. It's a feeling of pure joy and exhilaration, like when you achieve a long-awaited goal or receive wonderful news.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that understanding a wider range of emotion words can actually help us to better regulate our own emotions.
Oh, how so?
When we can accurately label our emotions, we can start to understand the triggers that cause them and develop strategies for coping with challenging situations.
That's so true. If I can pinpoint exactly what I'm feeling, it's easier to figure out how to address the issue or shift my mindset. It's like having a roadmap for my own emotional well-being.
Exactly. It's about becoming more emotionally intelligent, both in understanding ourselves and in empathizing with others.
Okay, this is fascinating. So it's not just about expressing ourselves, it's about understanding the emotions behind the words.
Precisely. And speaking of understanding, how are you feeling right now?
Let me see. I think I'm feeling a mix of intrigued and inspired. This deep dive is really opening my eyes to the power of language.
That's wonderful to hear, and it's a perfect example of how expanding our vocabulary can enhance our self-awareness and emotional intelligence.
All right, I'm excited to explore our final category, words for everyday conversations. These are the words we use all the time, but maybe we could be using them more effectively.
Exactly. It's about refining our everyday language to express ourselves with greater clarity and impact. For example, the word tedious. We all have those tasks or activities that we find boring and repetitive.
Oh, absolutely. Filing paperwork, cleaning the bathroom, waiting on hold. The list goes on.
Exactly. But instead of just saying, ugh, this is so boring, you could say, this paperwork is incredibly tedious. It just adds a touch of eloquence to your complaint.
Huh, I love that. It's like elevating the art of complaining.
Precisely. And then we have substantial,
Okay.
which is a word you can use to describe something significant or meaningful.
Right.
It could be a substantial meal, a substantial accomplishment, or even a substantial improvement in your communication skills.
Ooh, I like that. It adds a sense of weight and importance.
Exactly. And finally, we have inevitable, which is a great word to use when discussing trends or events that seem certain to happen.
Like, it's inevitable that technology will continue to advance at a rapid pace, or it's inevitable that this cake will be devoured in minutes.
Huh. Both excellent examples.
You know, I'm really impressed with how versatile these everyday conversations words are. They might seem simple at first glance, but they can add so much depth and nuance to our everyday language.
Exactly. It's all about choosing the right words to convey our thoughts and feelings with precision and clarity. And remember, this deep dive is just the beginning of your vocabulary journey.
That's right. It's about continually exploring language, experimenting with new words, and finding those hidden gems that allow us to express ourselves more authentically and effectively.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one casually dropping ephemeral and ubiquitous into everyday conversations, leaving everyone in awe of your eloquence.
Huh, I wouldn't mind that, but seriously, this has been such an eye-opening experience. I'm feeling inspired to pay more attention to my language and to embrace the power of words.
That's fantastic. And remember, the journey of language exploration is a lifelong adventure. There's always something new to learn, and the possibilities for expression are endless.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into powerful vocabulary,
Right.
I think it's important to remember that this isn't just about sounding smarter.
Absolutely, it's about so much more than that.
Right. We've talked about how the right words can help you be more persuasive in meetings,
Yes.
give feedback more delicately, even navigate those tricky group projects you mentioned.
Precisely. A richer vocabulary is like having a sharper set of tools. It allows you to express yourself with more nuance and precision, whether you're writing an email,
Right.
giving a presentation,
Right.
or just having a casual conversation.
It's like the difference between using a bull knife and a razor-sharp one.
Oh,
You can still get the job done with the dull knife, but the sharp one makes it so much easier and the results are so much cleaner.
I love that analogy. And just like with any skill building, a strong vocabulary takes practice.
Totally, but it's not about memorizing a bunch of fancy words and then awkwardly shoehorning them into every sentence.
Definitely not. It's about understanding the subtle shades of meaning, the contexts in which certain words are most effective,
Right.
and then using them in a way that feels natural and authentic to you.
So it's not just about the quantity of words we know, it's about the quality of our understanding and how we use them.
Exactly. And that's where the real power lies.
So, dear listener, as we wrap out this deep dive,
Okay.
we want to encourage you to embrace the journey of language exploration.
Don't be afraid to pick up a dictionary, browse through a thesaurus, or even just pay close attention to the language used in books, articles, and conversations.
And remember, even incorporating just one new word from this deep dive into your regular vocabulary can make a noticeable difference.
It's like adding a new color to your palette, a new spice to your cooking, a new tool to your toolbox.
And who knows, maybe you'll inspire someone else to start paying more attention to their own language.
Exactly. And that's how we create a ripple effect, raising the level of communication and understanding for everyone.
So with that in mind, we encourage you to go out there and experiment with your newfound vocabulary. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yes.
To play with words and to discover the endless possibilities of expression.
Because the power of language is within your grasp, and the journey of learning is one that never truly ends.
That wraps up our deep dive into powerful English vocabulary. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration and that you'll continue to discover the magic and the power of word.
Until next time, happy communicating.
All right, so today we're going to be looking at something that you might think you've already mastered.
Oh.
Formal versus informal English.
Yeah.
You're probably already pretty good at it, right?
Most people are, yeah.
But we are going to go beyond just good.
Okay.
We're going for masterful.
I like it.
We're unlocking a secret code today
A secret code.
to help you tailor your communication
Okay.
to make the maximum impact possible.
Right.
Whether you're trying to, be super credible in the boardroom
Right.
or just bond better with your friends.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? It's not just about knowing the rules, but it's about understanding the why behind them.
The why.
Yeah, like why does a certain word choice make us feel a certain way? How do these subtle shifts in language, really impact our perceptions and interactions?
Yeah, and we're basing this deep dive on a podcast called Fluent Conversations.
Okay.
And one of the things that really surprised me was how easy it is to sabotage yourself by using the wrong level of formality.
Oh, interesting.
Like, imagine you're at a networking event.
Okay.
And you're trying to, project this air of confidence and professionalism.
Yeah.
But instead of saying something like, "Excuse me, would you mind if I joined your conversation?"
Whoa.
You blurt out, "Yo, can I hang with you guys?"
Oof, yeah, that's cringeworthy.
Right.
Yeah, it really highlights how these small choices we make can have a big impact on how we're perceived.
Totally.
It's not just about grammar. It's about social intelligence.
Ooh, I like that.
Understanding the unspoken rules of communication
Yeah.
and using them to your advantage.
Yeah, the podcast had this great example that really stuck with me.
Okay.
They compared the phrases, "I'm afraid I must decline your offer," to "Sorry, but I'll have to say no."
Yeah.
And it just made me realize that even when the message is the same, the feeling is totally different.
Absolutely. The first one feels very stiff and distant, almost like you're putting up a wall.
Right.
The second one is much warmer, more human,
Yeah.
even though it's still saying no.
Yeah.
It shows you can be direct, but you don't have to be harsh.
So how do we break down this code of formality?
Well,
Fluent Conversations identified 3 key elements.
okay.
And the first one is vocabulary.
Vocabulary, I think about it this way. Every word carries a certain weight, a certain formality level.
Okay.
For instance, require versus need, inquire versus ask.
Yeah.
Even something simple like assist versus help.
Oh, interesting.
These little swaps can instantly elevate your language or make it more approachable.
Okay, so it's not just about using fancy words.
Right.
It's about understanding which words fit the situation.
Exactly. It's about matching your vocabulary to the context and to the person that you're speaking with. And it goes beyond individual words.
Okay.
Sentence structure plays a big role as well.
Sentence structure.
Yeah, the formal language tends towards longer, more complex sentences,
Okay.
often using the passive voice.
Like the report was submitted by the deadline.
Yes.
Instead of I sent in the report on time.
That's a great example. The first one feels detached and objective, right?
Yeah.
More appropriate maybe for formal reports or academic writing.
Yeah.
Informal language, though, it embraces contractions and phrasal verbs. It has a more relaxed conversational flow.
Yeah.
It's about creating that sense of connection, immediacy.
And of course, we can't forget about punctuation and greetings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, "Dear Mr. Johnson" versus "Hey, Alex" is a pretty clear distinction.
Right.
But what about the subtle stuff?
That's where it gets interesting. Even something as simple as how you sign off an email.
Oh.
Sincerely versus best
Yeah.
can convey a lot about your relationship with the recipient
Right.
and the tone of the message. It's like the finishing touch that sets the seal on the whole communication.
So how do we put all this knowledge into practice?
Well,
It's one thing to understand the theory, but
Yeah.
how do we actually use it in different situations?
right. Well, that's where context comes in. Fluent Conversations did a good job at breaking it down,
Okay.
by looking at specific situations.
Okay.
Like emails or meetings or even casual chats.
That's super helpful. So let's start with emails. I feel like those can be tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want to sound professional, but not like stiff,
Where emails often straddle that line between formal and informal.
Right.
You're not writing a legal document.
Yeah.
But you're also not texting your best friend.
Yeah.
So the podcast really emphasized, polite greetings,
Okay.
maintaining a professional tone throughout, and avoiding slang or like overly casual abbreviations.
So no, hey dude, what's up? It's my boss.
Probably a good idea to avoid that, yeah.
Okay, good rule of thumb. What about meetings and presentations?
Yeah.
Those feel like they're more on the formal end of the spectrum.
They often are, yeah, especially in professional settings.
Yeah.
The podcast really highlighted the importance of using transitional words and phrases
Okay.
to guide the listener through your ideas.
Okay.
Things like, furthermore, in addition, on the other hand, these little words can make your presentation sound much more structured and polished.
It's like you're building a case almost.
Exactly.
Leading them to your conclusion.
Right. And, those polite phrases we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
like, could we possibly discuss, or I'd like to propose,
Yeah.
those become even more important in these kind of settings.
Right.
Shows respect for everybody's time and input.
Okay, so we've covered emails and meetings. What about more casual interactions?
Sure.
Like friendly chats or texts.
Yeah, that's where you can loosen up a bit,
Okay.
Contractions, phrasal verbs, even emojis are all fair game.
Right.
Depending on your relationship with the person.
But how do you make sure that you're not crossing the line?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I once accidentally called my professor dude in an email.
Oh, no.
Oh, I wanted to die.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
I think the key is just being really mindful of your audience and the overall context.
Context.
Yeah. It's like choosing the right outfit, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't wear a ball gown to a backyard barbecue.
Right.
And you wouldn't show up to a job interview in sweatpants.
That's a great analogy.
So it's all about matching your communication style to the situation.
But Fluent Conversations also warn about some common pitfalls
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that we can fall into even when we're trying to be careful.
Right. One of the biggest ones is overusing fancy words.
Oh, yeah.
It's tempting to try and sound impressive,
Oh, totally.
but sometimes a simple word is way more effective than a complex one.
Right.
Clarity should always be the goal.
It's like, don't use a $5 word when a 50-cent word will do.
Exactly. Another common pitfall is mixing formal and informal language
Uh-oh.
at the wrong time.
Right.
It creates this jarring effect, like hearing a classical pianist suddenly break into a rap song.
Oh, I'm cringing just thinking about it.
And, the podcast also mentioned cultural differences,
Oh, right.
which is something I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah.
That's a crucial element,
Yeah.
What's considered polite and respectful in one culture could be seen as overly formal
Right.
or even rude in another.
Wow.
For example, in some cultures, it's totally normal to address people by their first names, even in a professional setting.
Yeah.
But in other cultures, using titles and last names is essential even when you know the person well.
So it's not just about knowing the rules of English.
Right.
It's about understanding the cultural context as well.
It does. It adds a whole other layer of complexity,
Totally.
but it also makes communication so much more interesting.
Right.
It's about bridging those cultural gaps and finding ways to connect authentically.
I like that perspective. So we've talked about the pitfalls. What are some strategies for avoiding them? Is it just practice? Practice.
Absolutely. Practice is key.
Okay.
Fluent Conversations had some great suggestions like rereading emails before you send them,
Okay.
getting feedback from like a trusted colleague or friend,
Yeah.
and even role-playing different situations
Okay.
to get comfortable with both formal and informal styles.
I remember they also suggested that role play exercise.
Oh, yeah?
Where you write a formal email and then an informal text message about the same topic.
Yes.
Have you tried that one yet?
Oh, yeah.
It was
How'd it go?
it was challenging, but it was really eye-opening.
Interesting. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I decided to use the scenario of asking for a deadline extension.
Okay, classic.
Yeah, right. So for the formal email to my professor, I channeled everything we talked about.
Okay, let me guess. Polite greetings, clear explanation, respectful tone.
Exactly. Yeah, it felt like I was stepping into a different persona.
It's interesting how language can do that, right? Like we can embody different roles just by changing the way we speak.
Yeah, and then writing the informal text to a friend about running late because of that same deadline.
Uh-huh.
It was like switching from a waltz to a hip-hop dance.
I bet what stood out to you the most, writing in those two contrasting styles.
It made me realize just how much we adjust our language without even thinking about it,
Yeah, it's subconscious.
Right, but being conscious of those choices
Right.
gives you this whole new level of control.
Yeah, that awareness is what makes a good communicator a great communicator.
Yeah, Fluent Conversations also mentioned how formal versus informal language has evolved over time.
Oh, that's a fascinating topic.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy how language is like this living, breathing thing.
It is.
Constantly changing.
Yeah, the Nutcast talked about how centuries ago, formal language was so much more elaborate and ornate.
Right. Makes you appreciate how simple things are now.
Well, simpler, maybe, but also more nuanced,
That's true.
Think about all the changes we've seen with technology and the internet and mass media.
Right.
they've all had such a profound impact on the way we communicate.
Yeah.
Like the lines between formal and informal are constantly being blurred.
Totally. Like emojis and internet slang and abbreviations have become a part of everyday language.
It really makes you wonder what future historians will make of it all.
I know. It's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, it shows how language is this reflection of our culture and values. What we see as acceptable now might have been unthinkable a few decades ago.
So how do we make sure we're communicating effectively in this constantly evolving landscape?
That's the question, isn't it? It feels like the rules are always changing.
Right.
I don't know if the rules are changing, but I think they're definitely expanding.
Okay. Yeah.
The key is to just stay curious and adaptable.
Okay.
Pay attention to how language is used in different situations.
Yeah.
Whether it's a news article or a social media post. Notice the nuances, the subtle shifts in tone and vocabulary.
So it's like we're all lifelong students of language.
We are.
Always observing and learning.
Exactly. And, fluid conversations reminded us that it's not about being right or wrong.
Right.
It's about using language as a tool to connect with others.
That's a good point. This whole deep dive has just been a great reminder that even something as familiar as language can still have hidden depths
It can.
and complexities. And by being more mindful of our choices, we can all become more effective communicators. So we can build stronger relationships and just navigate the world with more confidence,
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up.
I think so too.
So listeners, remember, language is power.
It is.
Wield it wisely and watch your world expand.